Hello and welcome to Egypt.
Welcome to Egypt. We're going to be seeing a lot of ancient sites. We're going to be cruising down the Nile and we're going to do some diving in the Red Sea. There's a lot here that Egypt has to offer. I'm so excited to finally be here. Our 86th country. Yeah.
The sun's going down. It's beautiful.
Hello! What is up, guys? Greetings from another day in Alberta, Canada. I am currently sitting here. It is late March, and like the rest of the world, we are self-isolating ourselves because of the that has just taken a hold of this world. But I decided to take this time to do some productive tasks that I've been wanting to do for the past few months. And one of those is to reminisce on our travels in Egypt from late last year and make some travel videos. So for some reason, we had been putting off visiting Egypt for a really long time. I have no idea why. It had always been on the bucket list. But finally, late last October, we were able to check it off of our travel bucket list and go check it out. And I had the best time. The food is amazing, the sights are unreal, the people are so friendly, but in saying that, there are some things that I wish I would have known before we landed in Egypt. I wanted to go over some of our top Egyptian travel tips with you guys that we thought would be really helpful for anyone visiting or planning and preparing for a trip to Egypt. So I started with 40 Egypt travel tips that would be really helpful to know, and then I narrowed that down to the 20 most helpful, which sounds like a lot, but I'm gonna try to go through this video as fast as I can, but I promise all these tips are super helpful for anyone wanting to go to Egypt in the near future or anytime really. Okay, let's get to it. Starting with number one, getting into Egypt, the Egyptian visa. I mentioned this because we landed in Cairo without doing any research on really what we needed. And then after being at the airport for a few hours too long after a long red-eye flight, I figured this would be really helpful to know.
Most likely you'll come into Egypt by plane, likely into Cairo. Most visitors will need a visa which can be purchased on arrival. Make sure you have $25 before you try and get your visa. You can only pay in dollars, euro, or British pounds, but not Egyptian pounds for some reason. If you don't have those currencies on you, you can either wait in a long line for the one credit card machine where they will charge you extra to use it, or there's one ATM where you can pull out Egyptian pounds and then exchange those at a bad rate at the currency exchange office nearby. All this may sound simple, but at the airport there are no signs or directions, making the whole process confusing. Also, when flights are stacked, all the lines take forever. It took us almost 2 hours at midnight to get this all sorted.
Make sure to go explore Cairo, but then make sure to venture out of Cairo, because Cairo is not Egypt.
We just made it to Cairo, and check out what is behind us.
This is the first stop on our Egypt adventure, Cairo. Obviously, first things first, the pyramids. We started off our Egypt trip in Cairo, and while I didn't particularly love Cairo, I certainly didn't hate it. That being said, don't base your whole experience in Cairo as your experience in Egypt as a whole. Cairo is not Egypt, but you can't go to Egypt and not visit Cairo. It's where the Great Pyramids are, the oldest city of Memphis, the first pyramid of Saqqara, and of course the Egyptian Museum, which houses fabulous artifacts. I have to admit that Cairo itself isn't the most pleasant of cities. I haven't met one person that disagrees with me. It's filthy, loud, aggressive, and there's horrible traffic. But what can you expect from Egypt's capital of over 20 million people? It's the 15th largest capital in the world and one of the largest in Africa, so come expecting craziness. However, you at least have to see Cairo and take it all in. Chances are you'll be passing through Cairo anyway, either in or out of Egypt. We contemplating spending just 1, 2, or 3 days in Cairo. We landed on 2 days, but honestly I wish we had 3. 3 would probably be enough.
Also, when you're in Cairo and all the other Egyptian cities, make sure to utilize Uber.
One of the main ways to get around Cairo is with Uber. It works well in the city and is very cheap. After taking Uber 10 or so times, I can confirm that it is reliable in Cairo. We found it also to work well in other parts of the country as well. I personally love taking Ubers around the world as it means I'm not going to get ripped off, there's no haggling with the price, I don't have to deal with cash, and that's exactly what we wanted out of a trip to a crazy city like Cairo. Look at this dude.
One of the main questions I got when we were visiting Egypt was, is Egypt safe?
Since the 1970s, tourism has been one of the leading drivers of Egypt's economy. Tourism is crucial to employment, income levels, and the economy as a whole. In 2010, Egypt was a very popular place to visit, drawing in people from all over the world. At its height, the country saw almost 15 million visitors a year. During and after the Egyptian Revolution in 2011, tourism plummeted to less than 9 million visitors. More than a 30% drop in the country's top sector hurt Egypt very hard. What followed was a series of terrorist attacks that only crippled the country more. But now, tourism is bouncing back. So, is Egypt a safe place to visit? Well, of course I can't say that because nothing happened to us that it's absolutely safe. But after our recent trip in late 2019, I felt secure and well looked out for during my entire trip. Tourism companies and the government have gone to great lengths to make their country more secure. We never entered a single site without having to pass through multiple security checkpoints. We got police escorts to certain temples in the middle of nowhere, and when we flew from Cairo to Hurghada, we had to pass through 3 security checkpoints at the domestic terminal. If you want to go to Egypt but are still nervous about your safety, it's best to book through an organized travel agent.
That all being said, when you visit Egypt, just prepare to be hassled.
We've traveled to over 85 countries, and I can confirm that the constant hassling at tourist sites in Egypt is particularly bad. It'll be impossible to avoid the touts at any ancient site, but if you really let it bother you all the time, it's going to ruin your holiday. The touts aren't aggressive, they are just persistent in selling you their trinkets. Most Egyptians are very poor, and they are just trying to get by, and therefore will try anything to get you to buy. If you want to buy something from them, remember to haggle your way down from the original price. It's expected. If you don't want anything and don't want to be bothered, I found it's best to just keep your head down, don't act interested, don't engage in conversation, and keep walking. Don't worry, you will learn quick.
Egyptian tip number 7. Prepare to tip.
Tipping in Egypt is common practice, but it can also be very confusing. And that's coming from an American. It seemed almost everyone in Egypt expected a tip, and they let you know it too. Of course, there are the standard tipping practices like at restaurants or for a guide or bag porters, but also outside every public restroom was someone to hand me my toilet paper. He expects a tip of around 5 Egyptian pounds. It's best to have Egyptian pounds on you for these instances like this, as if you only have US dollar, euro, or British pounds, you'll likely be over tipping at every single stop. No one ever has change, so make sure to hoard your small bills.
All those ancient Egyptian sites that you were probably dying to see are going to start to add up.
There's no Egyptian temple pass, that is a buy one time get all access to temples type of deal in Egypt. Instead, you have to pay individually for every site you visit, and they will really start to add up. Expect to pay anywhere from about 100 Egyptian pounds to 300 Egyptian pounds for most sites, and some cost even more. If you came to Egypt to see ancient Egypt, just be prepared to spend some money on each individual trip. If you go with an organized tour, all of these are typically included in the main price, which can make your day-to-day much more easy. Just make sure that your tour includes the price of entry fees, as some do not.
One thing I had no idea about in Egypt were the photography permits.
Something we didn't know was a thing in Egypt was photography permits. Depending on the site, you will be asked to pay a photography permit if you want to bring anything more than a phone in to take photos. We found photography permits to range anywhere from 50 Egyptian pounds to 300 Egyptian pounds. If you want to bring a tripod in, this is also usually an extra 20 Egyptian pound fee, but it all depends on the site. You'll have to pay special attention to the rules and regulations regarding cameras at each site. Some don't allow flash photography, some prohibit video taking. We also got in trouble for having a microphone on our vlogging camera, as it was seen as commercial. Some sites don't even allow photos, even with a phone. Oh, and you shouldn't even consider bringing a drone into Egypt. Sometimes the photography permits can cost more than the actual entrance fee itself. So if you're happy with just phone photos, I would suggest bringing this into the site for your photos. You'll also want to hang on to those entry and photography tickets until you are done with the site you are visiting. You may be asked for them multiple times, especially if you have a big, bulky camera out.
When you visit Egypt, it's going to be very, very helpful to hire a guide.
We aren't really guide people. We often travel independently and take our time at a place. But in Egypt, I cannot recommend a guide enough. They are essential to telling you about ancient Egypt and the site you are visiting. Essentially, there is little to no information at any of the sites. Nope, none. No placards, no pamphlets, nothing to let you know what you're looking at. You will definitely want a good guide that knows his or her stuff. Abdul, our fabulous guide in southern Egypt, was knowledgeable and friendly, and I can't recommend him enough. Not only are guides great for conveying information, but they can be great at shooing off unwanted attention.
When packing for your trip to Egypt, make sure to dress for the desert. Something like this.
One of my very top tips is to dress appropriately. It gets hot in Egypt, especially the further south you go. Peak tourist season in Egypt runs from mid-October to May, during winter and spring. If you visit in the summer, which is June through September, you'll constantly be seeking heat relief. We visited in mid-October, and while Cairo and the Red Sea were fairly comfortable, once we got to Luxor, it was stifling hot until we departed. It's important to dress for hot temperatures while still respecting the fact that you're in a conservative country. This means white and tan loose clothing, dresses past the knee, light pants, and shirts that aren't too revealing. Also, don't forget to bring a hat, sunglasses, and sun protection.
It's likely going to be pretty hot when you're visiting Egypt, so utilize your morning time.
The coolest temperatures are before 8 a.m. and after 4:30 p.m. It's best to start your day at sunrise to take advantage of the comfortable weather. We started many of our sightseeing days at 6 a.m. This not only meant fewer crowds, but it also meant we weren't stuck in ancient hot tombs full of people at noon.
After you arrive in Egypt, it might be helpful to just go ahead and purchase a SIM card.
If you want to stay connected while on your trip, it's best to pick up a SIM card at the airport once you land. While most of the places we stayed at had Wi-Fi, it never really worked that well. We were happy to have 4G almost everywhere we went, including on our Nile River cruise. Data is super cheap in Egypt. You can expect to pay about 100 Egyptian pounds for 10 gigabytes of data with cell phone providers like Orange and Vodafone.
One thing I wasn't prepared for when we visited Egypt were the friendly people.
Despite the annoying touts and occasional scams, I found almost any Egyptian I interacted with to be incredibly friendly. Most we found were happy that tourists were coming back after the stark downturn after the Arab Spring. Many times people went out of their way to accommodate us. You can expect many smiles and lots of questions about where you are from. The most common phrase we heard was, "Welcome to Egypt," happily. I was approached many times by women who wanted photographs with me and to chat about life in general. Sure, you may get asked for tips a lot, and the touts may bother you a little more than you are comfortable with, but I actually found it all to be very harmless.
If you only take one tip away from this video, it's to make sure and learn the word shukran and utilize it.
If you can only learn one word in Arabic before visiting Egypt, it should be shukran. This means thank you, and you'll be using it a lot. Learn also to say la shukran, meaning no thank you, as that will come in handy when you've had enough of the touts trying to sell you things.
Well, that concludes my Egypt travel tips. I really hope that these are helpful for you in your future trip to Egypt. If you want the read-only version of this video, then make sure to go to the description of this video and check out our Egypt travel tips which are on our blog. We also have a ton of other content on our website to help you prepare for your trip to Egypt. So I really hope you guys enjoy your trip there and you make the most out of it. You're going to love it, I just know it. And if you like these videos, then please make sure to go ahead and subscribe and leave a comment and let me know.